liberals haven't done a good job of building coalitions, say, with hunters who are not into semi-automatics and so forth. The other things that the other thing that doesn't get mentioned, but which I think is really important, is that the pharmaceutical industry lobbies at least as much as the gun industry, and not more so. And as a result, there's very little attention paid by the number of cases in these gun incidents in which people were on antidepressants or other drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about this is not that antidepressants don't work, but that for a small percentage of people, they can have a very negative effect. And we just don't even talk about that.
Right. Well, but again, my question is, how do we work with gun owners who are sensible if we don't know where they are? I mean, if they're not organized.
Well, you do it locally. You have to do it locally. You have to.
But that's what I'm saying.
Give you an example. I mean, I live in Maine, and Louisiana and Maine both have about the same percentage of people who own guns, and the murder rate is 5 times in Louisiana what it is in Maine.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying, if they're not organized or that accessible. I mean, they have to make themselves known and form some type of organization for us to coalition with. I mean, for people to answer phone calls and take polls is one thing. To have the courage to build alternative organizations is something else. You know, I guess that's my concern right there.
Yeah, but I think it's something to try.
Oh, and I agree with that. It is definitely something to try. But let's do this. We'll pick this back up. Sam Smith with us, the Progressive Review for 54 years now, right? Are we at 54 years now? Lord have mercy. The news while there's still time to do something about it. Folks, very important events. Sam, as you know, the Progressive Review got started in Washington, D.C. Sam covered D.C. and D.C. politics for a number of years. And by the way, we're streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Make it plain. This weekend, the District of Columbia will unveil a statue for Marion Barry. And joining us now to talk all about it and tell us all about it is the former First Lady of Washington, D.C. herself, Cora Masters Barry. Good morning, Mrs. Barry.
Good morning to both of you.
How are you?
Doing just great. Another day that God has brought.
Amen. Congratulations on getting this done on the statue.
Well, thank you so much, and I want to congratulate the city, the mayor, and the people who this means so much to. So it's a wonderful thing.
So the statue, Mrs. Barry, is going to be right in the center of the city. It'll be right on Pennsylvania Avenue, right?
Absolutely. From this day on, from the March 3rd on, every presidential motorcade that goes down Pennsylvania Avenue has to give a salute to Marion Barry.
So, Sam, from now on, every inauguration, the president's going to pass by Marion.
I think that's great.
I love it.
The thing about I've been hit by a number of journalists who called me about Barry, and what I really have been thinking about is how he was at I was on your show 3 months before he died, and I said to him, Marion, I tell people you're the last of the great white mayors because you have much more in common with Mayor LaGuardia or Mayor Curley or Mayor Daley than with some of the more recent ones. He understood what I was talking about, because what's happened after Barry, I sort of consider him as the last of a type of politician, because when television took over and really determined how we view politics, service to the community no longer mattered to politicians. It was all a matter of image. And it's a huge change in our lives, which we haven't really paid enough attention to.
And Mayor Barry definitely provided service to his constituents.
That's right.
Unlike many today.
And the other thing about Barry, which doesn't get any attention, is that he went to prison on drug charges, but there was somebody else who was on cocaine at the same time. And the whole story is quite different with him, a guy named Bill Clinton. And I think that's an important part of the history that doesn't get told.
Mrs. Barry, what will the meaning of this statue be to the young people coming up in the District of Columbia?
Well, Andy Young, former congressman, former ambassador, of course, civil rights leader, did a video because he won't be able to attend because he'll be in Selma. But he did a video commending the city for the statue, and he talked about the value of that. He made a point that they did a statue of him in Atlanta, and he was embarrassed by it. I mean, it's an unbelievable thing. But then as he would observe from a distance that people would come and they would take pictures with it, and at some point, you heard and you felt that they said, here was a black man. He must have been important. He did something to make a difference in our lives. And so his point was that with Marion, that statue is a symbol of the service and the transformation that he was responsible for in this city. He didn't just serve his constituents in the traditional sense of it. He developed and brought this city from a sleeping town to a bustling metropolis. Is the young people that got summer jobs, and now we're on third or fourth generation of people. And I mean, every day of my life, if I leave my home, someone's going to tell me they got their first job from Marion.
That's
a
right.
lot of times it's summer jobs, but other opportunities that he opened up for people to develop professionally. Or as I was talking to Don Peoples the other day, he said Marion's responsible for a lot of black millionaires and at least 2 black billionaires. So he economically empowered the city, the people. He gave business to Wall Street, to companies that were hiring people who looked like him. So I agree with the gentleman that Marion is the last of that kind of a politician, but I also say that he's the last political elected official, the last free black man, because I said this to the mayor not long ago. Marion had no problem talking about race because race is real, and we skirt around it. We say minorities and we say others and all of that, but Marion felt strong enough, free enough to confront those issues directly. And I don't think that we'll have another elected official, black elected official, who will feel comfortable enough to make a difference and empower people and serve them and shake up the status quo and or confront uncomfortable issues without worrying about the consequences. So that symbol, that statue symbolizes all of those things that he encompasses, and it encourages the people who don't know him to go read about him, learn about him. I mean, he's a legend who in the last 4 years has been amazing to me because I guess for all the obvious reasons you could consider me sort of a Marion Barry magnet. I'm hearing stories and watching how people are reacting to him. And so he's become a legend in 4 years. The level of love, excitement, and adoration and appreciation for him has intensified. So it's been very interesting to watch. And I think that the statue, it gives people a focused place to come and do what as Andy Young did, take pictures and talk about him.
Well, and now that I think that Marion Barry, ladies and gentlemen, if I'm not mistaken, probably the last mayor of a big city or any city for that matter, to come out of the civil rights era and to have been a civil rights activist. I can't think of anybody else. Yeah, I think Marion would have been the last one.
Yeah, he was, but also the first, because Andy Young also said in his comments that Marion took the movement into government, and he was the first one to do that. He just stayed longer than the rest of them. He was the first to come. They came after him, like Andy Young, some degree Dick Hatcher, and some of the other ones, but they didn't have that 35, 40 years political life. They came and they left. Yeah. He was the first and the last.
That's right. No, that's
my introduction to Barry was when he staged a boycott of D.C. Transit because of a fare raise, and 100,000 people stayed off the buses on that day. I mean, that's extraordinary.
Yeah.
And he was then in his 20s, and that was just the beginning of his story.
Yeah. I was in Nashville last week, Wednesday, for Du Bois' 150th birthday at Fisk, and he was an alma mater, Fisk, but Fisk was his alma mater. But I also took the opportunity to talk about Marion, because Fisk was also Marion's alma mater. He got his master's there, and he actually
in chemistry, by the way.
In chemistry, and he was a graduate. He was a graduate assistant, so he was teaching chemistry classes.
Right. He had all but a PhD.
And one of those undergrads in one of his classes was my uncle, and my grandfather at Fisk was the registrar and director of admissions. And, it shows you how things come full circle. So by the time I got to Washington at 18 and he and I got together, we already had connections that we didn't realize until years later in our collaboration, him being at Fisk, me growing up on Fisk campus. Now, let me just also mention, folks, this Wednesday evening, I'll be back in D.C. I'll be in Selma this weekend, so I won't be at the unveiling. But for those of you who want to hear more about the Marion Barry legacy, the Marion Barry Jr. Legacy Foundation is holding a symposium, Fire and Fiery, the social, political, and economic impact of the Marion Barry legacy today and tomorrow from 4 to 6 p.m. at the University of the District of Columbia in the Student Center. I'll be one of the panelists, along with former chair of the council, Linda Kropp, Bernard Demchek, Kimry Hughes, Gladys Mack, and others. And we'll be talking about the legacy of Marion Barry in advance of the unveiling on Saturday. So 4 o'clock at UDC on Wednesday, I'll be there, and we hope that you can join us there. Mrs. Barry, what time is the unveiling on Saturday?
It's at 11:30 in front of the Wilson Building on 13th and a half, between 13th and 14th in Pennsylvania. The street will be closed down. So first come, first serve. We have a great response from the various segments and constituencies, the unions, the youth people are marching and gathering over on the mall and marching there. Of course, the mighty Ward 8 is definitely planning to be much more visible than anybody else. Of course, the seniors are being bussed in, and just the general population, there's an energy there.
Yeah. No, this will be great, and it will be a great celebration, folks. And I'm sure some of the media will be carrying it live, and it'll be on social media. So those of you who can't be there, be sure to watch it. But we hope those of you in the area will take the time to go. And again, let me commend you, Cora Masters Barry, for seeing this through. It's definitely an honor he deserves and something everyone deserves to see. Folks, let me also mention that Cora Masters Barry built the Southeast Tennis and Learning Center, and sometime soon we'll have you back to tell everybody all about that too, okay?
I appreciate that.
All right, wonderful. Congratulations, and long live the spirit of Marion Barry. Let me just mention, too, we had Jesse Jackson on this morning. Marion Barry and his government were more supportive of that first big presidential run in 1984 than anybody else. I mean, he really put everything behind that. And then
he staged Jesse's announcement. He gave everybody liberal leave from the D.C. government, and when you looked up at the convention center, it was full, but it was D.C. government employees.
That's right.
And he put his name in nomination at the convention.
There was never a march or demonstration. All of our anniversary marches on Washington, and especially the Million Man March, Marion Barry was right there, not only putting the government resources behind them, but he was a participant.
That's right.
He was there. And you recall, Cora, when we shut down UDC, Marion wore two hats. He was the mayor representing the city and university, but then he was right alongside us, advising us as if he was one of the demonstrators.
He had the movement in him.
He did. He certainly did. So God bless him. We all miss and love him. And Marion, let me just say, folks, loved people. He loved the District of Columbia, but he loved people. He loved black people, and he would give his right arm for anyone. He was a kind man, never hurt a soul. People like to say some negative things about him, but Marion never hurt anybody. He only helped people. And we're so thankful for his life and his legacy. So, folks, 11:30 a.m., 13th and a half in Pennsylvania, right there in the seat of power, the unveiling of Marion Barry. And this is a big statue. This is not a little small statue either. It's like
8 foot.
8 feet tall, y'all. So this is going to be nice. Thank you, Cora. God bless you, and Godspeed on Saturday, okay?
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care now. Cora...